wealth is your ability to live intentionally. It's intentional living. If you don't live intentionally, I would say that you're not wealthy. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account.
The From Busy to Rich podcast helps financial advisors by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but practice.
Welcome, everybody. I am so excited today. I've got a real special guest for you guys, Caleb Guilliams, and he is an incredible story. He has a great podcast. He's doing a bunch of cool stuff in business and in really helping elevate the thinking of a lot of the people that are in our industry. We're a podcast for advisors to help them increase profitability and quality of life, not just for themselves, but for those that they serve. And Caleb, man, I'm so thankful that you're here today, brother. I'm looking forward to where we're going to go today.
Yeah, we have a ton of mutual friends and I just loved our conversation. I love that you shipped me your book, so that's on my reading list. And man, I'm pumped for what's to come. So here to be a generous giver.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, I would love it if you take a little bit of time before we jump into some cool stuff here today, to just those that might not know who you are or have never been exposed to you yet. At least the three people on the planet that might work well.
If you know who I am, that means you're a certified life insurance nerd and you're not that cool. So if you're a lot cooler than what I just listed,
we have a lot of those people tuned in today. I'll just tell you, man, a lot of them.
I get stopped about 5 times a year. And this is recent, and so I always have to remind myself, like, those are the nerdiest people on the planet, and so I have to keep my ego in check. But I'll just give your listeners a little background. So, if I look like I'm 13, I'm older than 13, I promise. That is why I attempted to grow this beard. So if you're watching this, you get to see my youth. If you're listening to this, I might sound like an average 20 or 30-year-old, but backstory is I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My dad is a molecular biologist. I wanted to follow in his footsteps until I took biology and realized not in the cards. Always got interested in how money works and how business worked. Actually worked at a chicken farm, which is a whole different podcast, but processed chickens. Let's just say I value the chicken sandwich and value where our food comes from. And then I got a job at a bank when I was 17 years old and soaked it up. I read many books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, Good to Great. I was reading leadership and finance books and just really got drawn in and realized that I was at a phenomenal place to learn. At 18, I got to work in our investment department. At 19, I actually took over the bank's investment department, which is pretty unheard of. There's a lot of things that had to happen. I'm a big fan of increase your luck surface because there's for sure luck that was involved in that. But I also worked in such a way that made it where you take a 13-year-old looking kid who's 19 and actually give them the responsibility. So we could talk about that if you want, but ended up learning a ton about how this world works. And at 21, I ended up graduating college a year early. I worked at the bank while going to college, while living at home. That's another podcast episode in itself. And I just realized hey, life is short. I'm going to die someday. There's a lot of people out there that we can serve. Banks are great, but I'm not able to really spread my wings and share with people what I'm learning, especially in the life insurance space. And I was fascinated with the internet. And so I actually left the bank on good terms at 21 years old to start my business, Better Wealth. And I've been running betterwealth.com for the last 9 years. So you can do the math. And we have clients in all over the country, and we've established over $2.5 billion of life insurance, and we do everything online. So we have a couple of YouTube channels. I have a self-published book that I wrote that's sold almost 20,000 copies, and it's on life insurance, which is crazy. And so that's opened up doors, and we host an annual life insurance event that, Wes, you're going to be speaking at this year.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Between that, our YouTube, books, that's kind of us in a nutshell. And I'm here to share the failures and successes and frameworks. And so you can take this where you want to take it, but that just gives you a little bit of insight on who I am and what we do.
Yeah, well, before we leave the episode, I definitely want to come back to the chicken farm. I think that may be some of the most relevant content. But I would love to go here with you. Is your what led you into what thinking led you to the place of going, Man, I really like how life insurance works as an asset. What kind of led you in that path? Because it is very uncommon. It's not that I mean, I certainly was more that way for me, just the way I came into the business and I kind of gravitated and learned a lot of other stuff. But like, what was the door to that got you there?
There's actually 2 things. Number 1, it was around this concept of you being your greatest asset and really leaning into efficiency and how money works. And so I'm learning about life insurance and I'm realizing there's a lot of misunderstanding, but if you value yourself as your number 1 asset, you know that life insurance is not an investment. That's where a lot of people push back on it. It's like, oh, you could get a better rate of return, X, Y, and Z. Well, they clearly don't understand life insurance if they're using those talking points. But life insurance enhances everything else, but it really enhances you first and foremost. So if you believe that you are your greatest asset, I can't think of a better asset to have as a foundation to you showing up powerfully in insurance. So that's the first thing is I'm just learning all about this stuff and realizing like I'm gaining conviction. And while I couldn't articulate it at 21, the thing that I like our whole theme in our event coming up is the multidimensional aspect of insurance, is the multi benefits. The more you learn about the benefits of insurance, the more you should value it. The second reason that I chose this space is I just realized that from a business perspective, super misunderstood, very inefficient market. Very few people understood it, and there was a massive opportunity from a business perspective. And so I looked at that and said, okay, you have something that's really powerful. Advisors don't understand it, consumers don't understand it, and I just saw a crazy opportunity to say, if I can get the messaging right, we can scale. And new shocker, like there's a lot of things that are going to commoditized. We're in line, but we're just later in line because there's more aspects that go into selling insurance than maybe investing in an index. Hence, you see Robinhood and some of these other things. And so I just saw, those 2 reasons are why I went very much all in on the insurance industry.
When you started your company, what was like the guiding wind behind the organization? Like what were you hoping to accomplish with the company that you started?
Yeah, I very much was inspired by Paradigm Life. For those of you that don't know Paradigm, in 2007, they started doing content and doing business fully online. That's kind of unheard of. Like 2007, they were doing that. And I looked at their model and said, that's genius. Like, why wouldn't everyone be doing business online? Well, there's 2 problems. Number 1 is how do you find people to want to talk to you? And number 2, there's like this like distrust about like, are you actually gonna work with someone on the internet? I know after COVID, it's like that's crazy to talk about, but like before it was a little bit weird. It was like, why wouldn't you meet with someone in person? Why wouldn't you wear a suit and tie? And so that was the thesis is like, hey, if we can share this education, people would actually want it. I mean, Wes, we get people 15 to 30 people a week reach out to our company wanting insurance, not like they want it. They're asking us for it, which is in itself pretty amazing. But then the internet allows us to meet and connect with people all over, and it's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I remember early days of, I came to the business of March of 2003, and it was the traditional big insurance company route in to where you're wearing a suit, they had a bullpen, you're calling everybody, and and by the way, there's like levels to this. I love what you said because there's nothing better than creating a practice where asking referrals becomes irrelevant because they are already intrigued, engaged. They're saying, "Hey, you did great work for so and so. I'd love to see if we can work with you." There's so many barriers already removed. When you're newer or you haven't built that, you get some people that are tolerant, right? Some people that are like, "Sure, I like you. I'll talk to you." Then you get some people that are resistant. They're like, "I don't know how I got here in this meeting," and they're kind of angry and mad. And and it's way more fun to build a practice that just people are at knocking on your door, you're not knocking on theirs. How long did it take you to get to that place? And what do you think some of the catalysts were?
I started a podcast very early on. It's funny, my biggest regret, and I'm big on regrets, by the way. I think people that say they have no regrets aren't reflecting on life. My one of my biggest regrets is not starting YouTube when I started my podcast. So when I started the business, I did a lot of things well. Looking back, I'm like, wasn't really strategic. I was just like, I'm really glad I did that. I started a podcast. Why? Because I was 21. I looked like I was 13 years old and had no connections. By the way, I would have advised myself not to start the business if I asked myself today, "Hey, should I start this business?" Like, heck no. But I did it anyways, and it's like, I'm grateful. And so I just use a podcast because of status. I was like, "Hey, if I interview Wes, who's a top producer, a leader in our space, people will assume that I'm friends with Wes." That's a pretty true statement, by the way. That's why I think podcasts are underrated. More people should do it. So I just use it purely from a relationship standpoint. Early on, nobody listened, but I remember the first lead that I ever got from it. It was amazing because they already knew, like I didn't, they already listened to hours of me talking and our guests talking. So that was a light bulb moment. And then the book when someone was like, "Hey, I read your book, got it on Amazon," which is crazy. I want this. And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, I was like, I was like, you don't need me to, like, show you a present." Like, "No, I want this. Can you?" And I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, and so those were the 2 moments that were, like, the biggest mind-blowing, and then it's still I still pinch myself to this day that people reach out to us on a daily/weekly basis wanting our services, but early on, we got it pretty early on. It just, obviously, it's grown a lot and because of all things.
And I totally resonate with the if you knew what you know now, like you would probably talk yourself out of it. I remember, I was probably 24 when I got in the business. I'm 48 now, and the I remember I was newly married, like 6 months in, and I was in the electrical contracting business. I had a financial advisor, and Dan was like, "Hey, you ought to think about getting in this business." So I said, "Dan, I don't think I want to do what you do," because he was fairly new too, and I think he only told me about like the bad days. And and I remember he would go, "No, no, listen, they're not all like that, and you should just explore it." And as I did, I thought, "Man, this could be great." And Jamie, my wife, who's completely risk adverse, by the way, like her core need above all is safety and certainty and security. I have no idea why she married me because that's like on the bottom of my list. And she's like, "Oh, we should go for it." And I'll never forget my father-in-law. My father-in-law coming to me and saying, "This is a bad idea." He said, you have a very stable position here. Why would you possibly do this? You need this much money saved up." And then I remember about 3 or 4 years after I was in the business, we took the whole family, including him, to Cozumel, and he said, "I was wrong about that." It was great. So he's a big fan now. Big fan of the way we do things today. But
He's like, "Hey, I always knew you had it, Wes. I always knew you had it deep
yeah, that's
down."
right. I knew you'd be there. But to be certain, like a lot of well-meaning friends and relatives were like, "Hey, what you're doing this is the statistics here are not good. The stats are not good." And I get it, they aren't, but they somebody has to make up the 13% that makes it, right? Somebody has to make that up, and so why not me? And
Well, and I also think that most people, um, are just gonna regret their life, and I just am terrified of that, and so even I was doing the pros and cons. I'm like, "Okay, what do I really have to lose at 21?" Well, they don't throw you in jail, the last I checked, if you fail business. That's a cool upside by being an American. So, okay, not going to jail. I really had little to lose, for especially when you look at the upside potential in business versus downside. It's kind of a no-brainer, especially early on. And so it really came down to ego. I was like, "Okay, I had a good thing going. Am I willing to, swallow my ego if this thing doesn't go well?" And um, I just realized, like, yeah, that was like the pros and cons. And most people, they never do that. And then I think about everything from like when Caleb's 85 and 90, what am I going to regret? And to this day, I try to live that way of like, if I feel like I'm just going to regret this long term, because time has a really beautiful thing to level out the things that we think we care about, and then just be like, "Oh, actually, really, really glad for this because this was the gateway to so many other amazing things that have happened along the journey."
Hey, thanks for tuning in to From Busy to Rich. If you're listening and something sparks a question or you just want to explore these ideas further, visit us at wesyounglive.com or email us at info@wesyounglive.com. You'll find free resources, tools, and ways to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
I will do the message at our church usually like one time a year when the real pastors have to go on vacation or do something else and they can't find anybody else. And I remember I did this message, and And basically, the premise behind the message was kind of what we're talking about. It's way better to find out than to miss out. And you know, Peter, was in the fishing business, and he was running his dad's fishing business. Had a pretty bad day of fishing. Things didn't go well. He's hanging and drying the nets, and then Jesus is speaking in the morning because they fished at night because fish would come to the surface. It was easier to fish. Didn't go well for him. Didn't catch anything. He was hanging and drying the nets, and they were about done. And all Peter wanted to do was like, I want to go home. I want to go to sleep. I hope I don't see my father on the way because he's going to ask me how it went, and I'm going to have to tell him it went bad. And Jesus had gathered this crowd on the shore that he's speaking to, and they couldn't hear because they didn't have microphones and amplifiers. So he gets in Peter's boat. And what I always find ironic about that, he didn't ask Peter to can I get in your boat? He just got in the boat. He's like, push out from the shore a little ways. And so Peter's like, okay. And he pushes out, he just wants, sometimes people, you get home, you've worked all day, or I work at home. So I work all day here. And Jamie be like, can you change the air filter? Can you do this? You're like, oh, this interrupts my plan. Or the thing that's caused more divorces than anything is like, what do you want to eat tonight? It's like, I can't make any more decisions, And Peter did it because, I don't know, he healed his mother-in-law. He'd heard Jesus speak before. Who knows the real reason going on? But okay, I can do this one thing. Pushes out, Jesus speaks, and then comes to the shore, and then he tells him, hey, I want you to go out in the deep water, not the shallow water, which means you gotta really get out there and put your nets down for a catch. And so you got to be thinking at this time, you could tell in Peter's comments to him, he's like, Master. And I really think he was thinking, carpenter rabbi, who does not fish professionally. We fished at night. We were supposed to fish, and we didn't catch anything. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, you've drawn quite the crowd. And my father knows a lot of these people in the crowd. And if he hears that I went out during the day, he's going to think I'm crazy. And then he had this great moment where he said, but because you say so, right? Because you say so, I'll fish out and I'll do it. And, talk about way better to find out than to miss out. He goes out, they catch a record breaking amount of fish. Everybody gets in and they come to shore, and he's like, now follow me. And, Peter's buried in St. Peter's Basilica now, and had an incredible life. And I often wonder, I think about those small choices that we make along the way that seem illogical. They don't make sense, or they seem so improbable, maybe is a better word for it. And man, what if I didn't do that? What if I stayed an electrician? That I'm sure I'd have a great life. I probably own an electrical contracting company, but man, what if I didn't do that? What if I didn't start giving? What are the things I've seen and the stuff that has happened? So I love that spirit, man. The whole regret, or even if you fail at it, at least you won't regret it, because man, you can recover from any failure. It's very difficult to get back a regret.
Yeah, I think it's well said.
Well, I'd love to talk a little bit about switching gears slightly. When you do the conference that you put on every year, what led to that inspiration? Tell everybody what it is, and because they can still sign up for this. And we're gonna send this podcast out well in time for you to do it. We're gonna put a code in there for you to do it as well. So in the show notes, tell them about that, because I think this is a major thing. The speaker lineup is amazing. And I'm not saying me, I'm there. You guys hear me all the time, but I'll be there too. But there's some really cool guys that I would pay a lot of money to go see. So tell them a little bit about that.
The heart of the event is I go to a lot of events, and I am ADD. I'm not diagnosed, but I just
Welcome
just
to
like
the club, baby.
yeah,
Welcome.
just like yeah, I don't have an hour to hear you talk kind of deal. And so I go to a lot of events, and I realize the value of events is really connecting. And so but and so I always wanted to design an event so that I could foster great relationships. And one of the ways to do that is to bring people in, because Wes, whether you know this or not, you may not just come to an event to connect, but if I can get you to speak and give, you're also going to be just a giver because of who you are. And so the event is it's set up like a TED Talk, fast pace. Let's bring in top people from all over to share ideas, but then foster it as a way to like, hey, get your idea, connect with some people, and really build relationships. And so it's called the Life Insurance Summit, and it's built for the financial professional, financial advisor, the life insurance agent, or someone that just really nerds out about life insurance, and for them to hear from top experts. And so, I mean, we got Ed Slott this year, we got Joe Jordan this year, Tom Wall is going to be there, Garrett Gunderson's going to be there. We have the top the producer from Canada is going to be there, Chris Noggle, David McKnight, the author of Power of Zero. We have the CEO of NAFA. We have one of the top people from Fonseca. They're both going to be there. I mean, I could continue. It's going to be an incredible group of people, and it's fun because some people are well known, and then some people I feel like are best kept secrets. We got Barry James Dyke, who wrote The Pirates of Manhattan, who literally discovered like boli and coli and like talking about that. He's going to be there. We have someone named Tom Gober who's going to be making his rounds. He's been calling out insurance companies, especially insurance companies that are doing some sketchy stuff with PE companies and reinsurance. He's going to be sharing some like breaking news while there. So we're it's going to be a fun time, but I also know that it's not just about information, because especially with AI, information is a dime a dozen. It's more of like information curated in a special way where you can really connect with people in a meaningful way. And so that's why we have it. And I love it, and I'm ultimately the greatest beneficiary, because even though it's expensive and a lot of work, it's a way for me to just connect and see other people connect and like with so many great people, and I absolutely love it. So if you're watching this or listening to this before June 15th, you should grab your tickets. There will be a special coupon code or link, a coupon code for you to use to get 20% off. And so make sure to take advantage of that. And yeah, Wes, I appreciate you supporting this and showing up. It's going to be fun to have you on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I am super excited about it, and just getting to be with everybody and hearing all the great communicators and getting to spend time with everybody. So if you're there, we'll hang out. I look forward to seeing you there, and we'll definitely link to it. And what website, just in case somebody's listening and doesn't go to the show notes, what website is that they can go to?
Lifeinsurancesummit.com. So lifeinsurancesummit.com is where you can see all the speakers, register, see the location, and all.
Man, how'd you get lifeinsurancesummit.com? Sounds like somebody would have got that. Seems like somebody would have got that before. That's a great one.
It's crazy. It was $12.
What? Oh
I'm
my
telling
gosh.
you, this is another episode in itself. The domain names, the team knows I buy about a domain name a quarter, and that's way better than what it used to be. But I love finding domain names, and it was crazy to me that lifeinsurancesummit.com was available. We also have Whole Life Insurance Summit, but that's a whole extra word. So we were like, we brought it down.
That is awesome. One other area I want to go with you. You have a sign that says "One Life." Speak to what that is. Speak to what that means.
Well, I pretty much opened up the podcast with saying like, you are your number one asset, and the essence of why I do what I do and our business does what we do is wealth is your ability to live intentionally. It's intentional living. If you don't live intentionally, I would say that you're not wealthy. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. And so that's great, but intentional living, if we're being honest, it doesn't really hit home. It's like, okay, great, intentional living. People like you vibe with it. Yeah, you think intentionally a lot, but it's sometimes hard to have like a call to action. What I found is when you think about death, that sobers people a lot. When you think about people that you love that have passed away, or you even think about yourself dying, you start getting way more, I would say, intentional about how you use that time. And so I just like to remind myself that we have one life, and I actually have an art company that designs like a art piece with each block representing a year. And so it's like a visual representation of like, okay, Caleb, I got my one plaque, and I see that I've already lived about 36% of my life, give or take, hopefully giving, hopefully,
hopefully you bring the average up, right?
yeah. But I mean, like Wes, yours is a lot less,
That's
you have,
true. That's
statistically, not to be, so, but all that to say is it allows us to be like, okay, I want to make the most of my one life. The odds of being alive is a miracle. I mean, you could win like the jackpot like 3 times in a row versus like even being born. So I think it's like the also one life stands for the value of just like we've literally won the lottery by being alive. and yet it's not going to last forever. And part of the secret to be intentional is to embrace the past, which is another form of death. And so it's to embrace that, I'm never going to get this time back ever. And so to be aware and present to it. So that's probably more than you wanted, but one life means a lot. My driver's license plate, one life, which is a bonus because I can remember it. Anytime they ask you like what your driver's like one life, and then I actually have a side business where we help create like art pieces to help people live more intentionally, and I got some other things that I'm working on because I think if there's one thing that I can influence people, it's to help them live their one life better. And what I found is one life hits a little bit differently than intentional living. So while the secret is helping people live more intentionally, I'm going to try to accomplish that by helping people embrace and live their one life the best they can.
Man, that deeply resonates with me. One of the things we've been talking a lot about is with our team internally is that we are curators of human flourishing. At the top level of what we do, that is it. And everybody, like you think about when normal questions that get asked by a financial advisor, and it has to do with what they inherit. Everybody inherits a process, and but you could so amplify that by asking a few different kinds of questions, like what lights you up? What are you working on right now that you're excited about? And let me understand your past. If you were telling the version of yourself, and I mean, for you even, think about this, the 10-year younger version of yourself, you would tell them what's going on today, they would be so excited. And because we often, especially driven people, striving people, we are so focused on where we're going. Oftentimes we don't enjoy where we are on a way where we're going because we have things in our life right now that we once prayed for, we once hoped for, we once wished for. So understanding the story on both sides of that, and then you have, okay, well, where are you now? And what are the drivers that are going to really help you flourish into living the kind of life that you want to live? I love it, man. I think it's amazing.
I would say that if I could give one thing to the audience listening, it would be to really hone in on what I call value leveraging. And value leveraging stands for provide value and then amplify that value. And a lot of times people don't know, like, how does value get, like, what is value? Well, value is when a service or a product is given or created or and exchanged for something greater than what they're giving you. Okay, so it's essentially a product that people or a service that people want. And there's three questions that if you can answer, you can determine how you create your value. And I share this because a lot of people say things like be valuable, but they don't actually show or tell people like how. And I think the greatest thing that you can do is learn how to be valuable and then amplify that. And so the three questions are, who do you want to serve? What problem do you want to solve? And how do you solve that problem? Who do you serve? What problem are you solving? How do you solve that problem? If you can really identify that and sit with that, and you can get like really clear on the solution to ultimately solving someone's problem, and then you focus on, okay, I have something really, really valuable. Some people watching or listening to this have been legends in our space. The next part is something that they probably need to improve on, because we all need to improve on this, is the leverage aspect. All leverage is amplification. It's not anything magical. It's like if you are a terrible guitarist and you amplify your guitar, you're just gonna get exposed. It's like you are horrible. Don't amplify that. Whereas if you're really good, amplification is the difference between, being, amazing and being a rock star kind of deal, because more people are able to like hear, and it takes off. And so I find that most people need to do a better job amplifying the value that they can provide the world. And it's actually very selfish of them. Believe it or not, it's selfish of you if you have something that you can be of value and you're not growing and getting it out to more people. And I'm not saying you have to work harder. Part of leverage could be working less but impacting more people. But if you have the ability to serve somebody and you're not thinking about ways to be greater of service, I would say consider the value leveraging framework of who do you serve, what problem do you solve, how do you solve that, and then how can you amplify that output, service or product. And that is what I felt like needs to be shared, because most people watching and listening to this are amazing humans that are doing really good work, and they need to grow because by not growing, they're not helping more people.
I love it, man. It's been great to get to spend this time with you, Alex. So forward to being with you at the event, and we'll again put all the information in the show notes. We'll put the code in there as well, and come hang out with us at this thing. We're gonna have a great time. Also, listen to Caleb's podcast, and where do they go to get your podcast?
You have to go to YouTube and type in Better Wealth. It's Better Wealth, and you go on YouTube and you'll see a bunch of podcasts or episodes. And if something's interesting, click it. And yeah, we're on a journey to grow our channel. And so, yeah, hearing from you. And if you hear something, make sure to comment and say that you found me on this show, and I'll give you some love.
Man, that's awesome. And I would say this too. You have some people on the podcast that are all shapes and sizes, man. There are people that it is you if you want to learn how to talk to someone that is adamantly against life insurance, or who is like, well, I would use it for this, and you're like, well, it doesn't fit every shape and size, and you do it in a nice way. You always, or by the time it's done, it's like, even though you have some people that are like not going to relent that you definitely made it clear, they're like, well, I'm gonna have to look that up. Well, I'm gonna have to check that. And it is just so fun to watch the way you dance with people on it, man.
People that disagree, I'll have that's a way to shut up haters. Is they're all confident in the comments, and I'm like, great, can you want to come on and feel and very few people do, but I do have people that come on that, and I think people should listen to how I go about that. There's a lot of things that I can learn, but I'm telling you, we need to do more of this. We need to have more conversations. I have an episode that's going to be dropping here soon that's going to make a ton of waves, calling some people out. I'm not doing it. I'm just hosting someone that's, suing some people and using my podcast to kind of, and then I am inviting every single person that they called out on the show out of genuine, because I care about the conversation. I've been threatened to get sued, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're on the show. So I don't know of too many people that get a legal letter and say, you know what, I'm going to invite the person that sent me this legal letter on. But I think over time, I think people can see it. And I've never regretted having hard conversations. And yeah, I've taken many L's, but I think people appreciate the authenticity of us growing together.
Yeah, man. Well, it's great because you don't take it from a standpoint of it's not an anger. It's not I wouldn't even call it a debate. I would call it more of a genuine conversation of curiosity of, hey, help me understand what thinking led you to that point of view. What got you there, and then you say, well, what about these things? And it is a master class. So you guys got to, it's a weekly, you got to get on this podcast every week and listen to it because it's amazing. And Caleb, thank you for your time today, brother. I've so appreciated you being a part of it with us today.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to From Busy to Rich. If something in today's episode sparked an idea or hit a nerve, don't keep it to yourself. Follow the show, share it with a friend, and let's keep building a community of advisors who want more. You can find more resources, tools, and free content at wesyounglive.com. We'll see you back here next time for more real conversations about building the life and business you really want.